Hi and welcome along to AFTV. We are here for the game today. Bodø Glimt versus the Arsenal, right? Happening over in Norway today. The lads are over there. It's been raining over there. It's been miserable over there, the weather. But the boys are over there. Lee, Cecil, Julian, they're all over there for the match. And make sure you catch up with them after the games. They're going to be doing all the fan cams and everything. We're in the studio to bring you what we think might be the starting 11 and what will be the starting 11. Joining me to go through it is Sharoy.
Yes.
We've got James in the building, clapping like Ty, and we've got Turkish.
Why are we not clapping? We should be clapping,
everyone. Thank you. Far too kind.
Of course, last week we beat Bodø Glimt by 3-0. It was a pretty easy game in the end, but going away to Bodø Glimt might be a different proposition. You know what I mean? One of the things that really does make it a sort of a leveler is the fact that they play on an artificial surface. Now, Sharoy, do you think that's going to affect the team selection today? And by the way, make sure you check out some of the videos that the boys have been doing over there in Norway. In one of the videos, the players were coming into the hotel and the eagle-eyed Cecil spotted that Martinelli had a sort of strapping around his leg, which suggests that he may not start. And he did start last week, and then it then throws up this, who's going to play in that left-hand sided position if he's out. So do you think there'll be a lot of changes today, in particular considering the fact that they're playing on an artificial surface?
Yeah, I think there'll probably be 2 changes if I had to guess. I didn't think Martinelli was going to start, notwithstanding the strap, particularly because Reece looked bright when he came on last week. So I think Reece will start on that flank. I still think he'll start with Xhaka because I don't think he wants to completely imbalance that midfield. But I do think it's time to give Gabriel a rest as well because he played in the North London derby, played Bodø last week, played Liverpool, and I think this might be where we see Ben White returning to centre-back. But those would be the 2 changes that I expect this week.
Okay, any changes you'd make?
Ooh, you got me thinking, Sharoy. Yeah, White at centre-back's a good shout. I think he'll go a little stronger than we're expecting. I think he'll see this as an opportunity to, rather than seeing the artificial surface as a reason not to play players, I think he'll see maybe that factor, how good Bodø Glimt have been at home against the likes of Roma and Celtic, and the fact that this is our 3rd game, not our 4th, so maybe, we don't quite have all the points on the ball we'd like. I think he might see this as an opportunity to actually go quite strong and put one of our main competitors for the 2 qualification spots completely out the race. So when
you say strong, like who? What,
I'm thinking his front 3 will be
that,
something like Jesus, Nelson and Nketiah.
Well, I think Jesus didn't travel, didn't he?
Well, then it definitely won't be Jesus. but then maybe Saka, Nketiah, Nelson, something like that. Nketiah, Nelson and Marquinhos just feels a little too rotated, a little too young, and they haven't really played together. In midfield, Vieira, Lokonga, Xhaka, and I'm with you. I think because Tomiyasu's been playing so well, and White's been the starting right back, I think he'll see White and playing him at centre back as a worthy risk when you've got Saliba Gabriel as well. So yeah, I think he'll go with White at centre back.
What about you, Turkish?
Yeah, when I spoke about it earlier in the week, I want a full shake-up, let's say, including the players that have played in the first 2 games. That's Gabriel, Xhaka and Martinelli. They're all integral to our first 11 in the Premier League, our first team squad in the Premier League. But then you raise a good point. We've got PSV doubleheader next. Do we want to get this one over the line, get 9 points on the board before that doubleheader? Because they are the most difficult team in the group, I'd say.
Yeah.
So there's a question there, but I'd go with Reece Nelson over Martinelli. I'd probably put Matt Smith in the midfield with Lokonga. And I would move Ben White over to centre-back. One player I'd protect is Kieran Tierney. I don't think Kieran Tierney on an artificial pitch, it just doesn't sound good to me. So in terms of injury risks and problems, I think maybe a Tomiyasu on the left or a Cedric on the left with the other on the right. So that's probably the changes I'm looking to make.
Gabriel, so Gabriel starts?
I'd take him out of the lineup now.
A centre-back, Gabriel.
Yeah, I think Ben White and Holding, in my opinion, with Tommy and Cedric either side, one left, one right.
Yeah, Cedric, forgot about him.
Yeah, he's going to have to play somewhere.
Even Ben White has had a lot of football. I mean, and he's so integral.
It's true, it's true.
But didn't play for England in the internationals and didn't play in the last game against Bodø. So he has had less football than Gabriel. That's why I think he might come in. And look, Arteta's press conference, he was asked squarely about the artificial pitch, and he said, look, my players have played on artificial pitches before. They've played on pitches that aren't the calibre of the Emirates. We need to win this game, and we're going to figure out how to do it. So I don't think it'll be totally weakened.
No. I like the fact that you said that, actually, because one of the things that you know, I do think sometimes with some managers, they literally talk it into the head of the players that, oh, we're an artificial pitch, or we're at a disadvantage, oh, this is going to happen, no, we can't afford to play this player, this, that. And then you end up having that just psychologically in your head, that it's the surface, where, you know, there's plenty of artificial surfaces at the training ground that they can train on. I mean, listen, Premier League players don't play on artificial pitches, do they?
Yeah, I'm like you. I think like it's over exaggerated at times. I know it can cause problems in the knees because of the impact when you're running, and that's why I'd say protect Tierney. But other than that, I just think artificial pitch or not, we're Arsenal. We should get the job done.
The team is out
already.
Yep, the team is out.
They dropped it early last week as well, didn't they?
Yeah, sometimes in these games, what they do is they do get the team out a bit earlier than what they would in a Premier League game. But this is the team that is going to play Bodø Glimt today. In goal, Matt Turner. White, Holding, Saliba. That's interesting that Saliba starts. No Gabriel, but Saliba coming in. Tierney. So you said it seems like the type of pitch that you keep Tierney away from.
Right,
Tierney starts. Lokonga, Odegaard, Saka, Vieira, Nelson, and Nketiah. That's a very strong side.
He really wants to win.
Very strong side. On the bench is Ramsdale, Hine, Tomiyasu, Cedric, Ibrahim, Gabriel, Partey, Smith. Xhaka doesn't start this one. Neither does Marquinhos. Martinelli and Edwards. Sharui, that's a strong. That's taken us a bit by surprise because I wasn't expecting to see Saliba in there, for instance.
I'm trying to figure out what the midfield's looking like there.
I think
because you've got Odegaard and Vieira. Yeah. I mean,
he tried it last week.
That's a creative midfield. Didn't you call this? Where you thought Vieira and Odegaard might not on this show, but
well, I mean, I wondered whether he might see Odegaard play more in Xhaka's position and then Vieira getting forward a bit, but I didn't think he'd go that strong. I mean, I was sitting here tentatively going, I think he might go a bit stronger, see it's an opportunity to get the win. But that's stronger than even I thought. I didn't think he'd bring Saliba in. I didn't think he'd start Odegaard and Vieira.
Yeah.
Fair play.
In a way, it's a good idea to start Odegaard, right? He's a real hero in Norway. Remember, it's his country. He knows the place. I think that's probably a good move.
And I think when you look at Vieira and Odegaard, listen, Arsenal, I think Arteta will admit this as well. We are not there yet in terms of Arteta's idea and philosophy, and I feel like if we get there, that time you implement your style of play, you go into every game with your idea. And I think when you play Vieira and Odegaard, it's very attacking. You look at Manchester City, for example, they kind of go with two attacking orientated midfielders in front of Rodri. I think it's a good game to test that in. Obviously, you can't be testing in the Premier League yet because we're not fully there. But against Bodø, Vieira, Odegaard, we should see an abundance of chances and goals.
Eddie should be getting some real service with that team.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Well, so we're presuming that obviously it's going to be White at right back, Holding and Saliba.
Yeah.
As the two centre backs. We'll have to be interested to see who plays out on that left hand side. I presume Holding.
I think he would be Holding. When Holding first came into the team, he was actually playing as more of a left-sided centre-back, left in a back three under Emery, and he did quite well there.
I think the biggest one to me that I mind is probably Ben White added a lot. I think you have Cedric there, third choice right back. And playing Cedric, would that risk a result against Bodø? I'm not necessarily sure. Or Tommy, but I get maybe protecting Tommy.
Remember he's only... They have to be a bit delicate with him because injuries and stuff like that. He had a full game, full 90...
looked pretty good against Salah, bro.
Looked brilliant against Salah. You saw last night when you don't lock down Salah, what happens? You know what I mean? He scored that hat-trick. He was a brilliant hat-trick he scored. So Lokonga, do you think Odegaard will sort of take on that sort of Xhaka role, box to box? Or do you think Vieira will get that role?
Me and James spoke about it in the summer when we were doing, AFTV Live. We said Vieira's productivity is different to Odegaard's, and if they was both to start, I would assume that Odegaard goes to the 8 and Vieira stays in the 10. I'm not too sure what you think, but
I think that's the balance. Odegaard feels to me like the pass before the pass, and the one who knits it all together. And I think Vieira's got a goal and an assist. And not that Odegaard doesn't have these things, but Vieira, just in the couple games we've seen, albeit you take into account the calibre and opposition, albeit he played very well at Brentford, there's something. He's got this kind of immediately you sense he's got a goal in him.
He also has that long-range vision, though, and he's got really good long-range service and a long-range strike on him, which sort of leads me to believe that he wouldn't necessarily be bad in that deep-lying playmaker role, as opposed to having to sort of tick it through the midfield and play that sort of 3-yard pass. He could just ping a diagonal over, picking it up straight from the back four. So I don't know.
They probably had the freedom to rotate as well.
Yeah.
Arteta likes to play.
That's going to be. I mean, the balance of that midfield three is going to be really interesting. And of course, you're Lokonga, who's. I think for Lokonga, it will be quite nice to have. When he's had Xhaka near him, I think we've seen the best of Lokonga, and I think to have that experience near him will help. I think he's struggled when he's kind of played in the midfield, but then you've had Smith Rowe next to him, who's younger and new to that role, and Xhaka's had to drop to left back. I think a more settled team around him in White, Tierney, who tuck in, Odegaard, I think will help Lokonga as well.
Okay, some people in the chat. Max says, I like Nelson starting. Cirque says, I think that Lokonga's going to sit alone. So, you know, it will probably be him sitting there. Elijah says, Saliba's presence compensates for what might be defensively weak midfield.
Potentially.
Yeah.
What happened to Jesus, says Casanini? He didn't even travel, did he? I mean, he's
he didn't train yesterday, did he?
He didn't train.
Arteta said it in the press conference.
Arteta said, you know, remember he got that little knock, and you know, he goes, he just bit battered and bruised, leaving him out for the weekend, basically, which I think is a sensible thing to do. Luke Morrison says, I back this team selection. We need to win this group. Don't want to finish second and possibly face the likes of Barcelona, Juventus, and Atletico Madrid in the next round. There is that too. There is. When you look at some of the teams that could drop out, I mean, you know, there is that. So, Carlos says, I think Vieira in the Xhaka position, he played that for Porto sometimes as a number 8. So that's what he's saying. Elite Frog says that the score will be 5-0 to Arsenal. No conceding with Saliba at the back. But MCA 808 says injuries incoming. Oh gosh. Let's get some, now that we know what the team is, let's look at some predictions. Turkish. Because that's a stronger team than I thought we were going to go with.
Stronger team for sure, and even the team I had in mind, which was considerably weaker, let's say quality-wise, experience-wise than this one, I would have predicted a win. I'm not going to predict a 5-0. It's away from home, and Bodø. Listen, Bodø haven't lost away from home in Europe. They've only played about 6-7 games, but they haven't lost, and they picked up a couple of good wins as well. So we have to be wary. Saliba at the back, definitely his presence will help. So overall, I'm going to say 3-1 Arsenal.
3-1.
3-1 Arsenal.
I said 2-1, and I'll stick with it.
2-1.
Even though that's a stronger team than I expected, I think they'll work us hard, Bodø Glimt. They did at times at the Emirates. So yeah.
Did they?
I think there were moments where
in the second half.
Listen, okay, we kind of had
we had the goal. We could have won that by about.
There's
5,
that,
right?
but I think they had a spark about them. So I think they'll cause us trouble.
Yeah, they had a couple of little quick players in that, but I don't really remember Matt Turney having much to do. There was one little save that he had to make at the end where he was a bit unsighted, but.
Oh, there was one under the legs in the box.
Yeah. I don't really remember him having to do anything else apart from that. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah.
You're at home, I guess.
And listen, you hear that old analogy, a cold night in Stoke. It's definitely a cold night out there in Bodø. So
it's a wet, you know, it's a wet. Because the guys have been just complaining to me saying, Robbie, it's just not stopped raining since we've been here, and they go, it's that cold rain, you know, that ice cold rain. Bodø's in the Arctic Circle, right?
Forget Stoke.
Yeah, it's about 1,000 miles from Oslo, they reckon. It's like in the middle of nowhere, so.
I was kind of jealous that they were out there, but now I'm looking at the story. I'm kind of warm and dry in the studio. I'm like, you know what, you lot carry on, man.
The thing is, I've had the audacity the last few days to step out of my apartment and be like, oh, a bit chilly.
Then you go on AFTV and see Cecil out there.
They would kill me.
They're lucky that game ain't been played like, you know, in about a month's time, maybe even worse, you know? So, what's your prediction?
I was going to go 2-1, but now looking at the creativity that's on the pitch, I'm going to go 3-1. I went 3-0 last week, and I think because of the fact their away fans were incredible last week from what I could see on the TV anyway, and I'm thinking if you're going to have a lot more of them in that stadium, I think that might carry them over line to get that one goal. So I'm going to go 3-1 as well. I still think we'll get 3, but I do think they'll probably get 1 just because of the atmosphere.
Cirque says, Robbie, good getting Tintin on. Who's Tintin?
That'll be you,
on the show. Also, this is a must win. Let's top the group, then we can get to rest players. I think I'm going for about.
You're going to say
I'm
4,
going
innit?
for goals, you know. I'm going for like a 3-1. That's what you said, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be about that as well. Their defence last week, what they try and do. What I noticed with them, they try and play everything out from the back, which is admirable.
Yeah.
But they just weren't very good at it last week when I saw that, you know what I mean? And they kept getting caught time after time. And with somebody like Eddie there, now you've got Saka there as well, you know what I mean? You've got guys that are just quick in the transition as well. Vieira's in there and Odegaard.
And a young Reece Nelson who's trying to make an impression. They're going to be like demons up there.
Yeah,
man.
Odegaard didn't play last week.
I'm excited to see Nelson, yeah.
I fancy, I think we'll get about 3. I think we're going to be right.
Yeah, listen, regarding Nelson, I'd love nothing more than him to pick up man of the match today and get a goal or 2.
Yeah, he needs a big performance.
Yeah, I want him to kick on, man, because like I said previously, he was always the one I looked at in the next young crop coming through as the leader of the crop. Saka emerged as the leader, Smith Rowe's come through as well amongst other players here and there. Nelson's had a rough time. We saw a good introduction from him last week against Bodø at the Emirates. Now he's starting the game. I want him to have a big game. I want him to have a good game.
And it looks like when Saka doesn't start, Marquinhos has nailed down that right-hand side, which I think is Reece's favoured position. And now we know we don't have adequate cover for Martinelli, particularly because Smith Rowe is injured. I think if Reece is going to nail anything down, it's going to have to be that left flank, and that's where he's going to start. And also, man, when we were talking about the teams that are going to drop down from the Champions League, there was a part of me that thought this 11 or the slightly weakened 11 that we saw last week would have a lot more games to make an impression. But now it might not be very long until we are playing really, really high caliber teams. You know, you're talking about the leaders of La Liga, the Italian champions. So Arteta may have to go with something close to a first 11, and it'll be interesting to see how much faith he has in the fringe players. You know, so they might be thinking, you know what, we thought we'd have a long run in the Europa League and only start having to dip into serious teams later on, but it could come earlier. So this has to be a real audition for them.
And who did we get in the League Cup again? Was it Brighton?
Brighton.
And that's not an easy tie either to rotate fully. And give the
And that's
fringe
I think
players
that's
a
9th.
chance.
Is that 9th of November?
Something like that, yeah.
I wanted to just so let me run through some of the teams, right, we could get. As it stands, these are the teams in third place, right, or teams that maybe might not be in third place, but they're just a point off that third place.
And they're 4 games in Champions League, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So these are some of the potential teams that we could face if we didn't win the group, right? From Group A, Ajax, they're currently third, right?
Decent.
Group B, the current team in third place is Atletico Madrid. Yeah.
It's just written in
Group
the
C,
stars,
the
isn't
current
it?
team in third place in that group is Barcelona.
Who?
Third place currently in Group D is Sporting Lisbon, although they're on the same points as Marseille, so it could be
a tight
Marseille,
group, yeah.
it could be Frankfurt, it
The
could even be
Saliba derby.
yeah, it could even be Tottenham.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're not
only on
fully
7.
qualified yet, right? Group E, third place team currently AC Milan. Group F, third place team currently Shakhtar Donetsk.
Never an easy place to go.
Group G, current third team place Sevilla.
Madness, isn't it? It's madness.
And Group H, current third place team Juventus.
This is what I mean.
There's not one sensible one.
I was on the DR watch along. I was on the DR watch along last night, and I was going, boy, it's like it could be like the Champions League Mark II, 2.0, because those are some strong teams dropping down there, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
I'm just looking at maybe Sevilla's the one that sticks out as the favourable one for me.
Huh? They win it every year, this.
Yeah.
This is theirs. You know how we say that our cup is the FA Cup?
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
theirs.
Yeah, I fear them the most.
All right, give us Barca then. Right?
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you, and so maybe Arteta's taken a little look at that and thought, hey, you know what? I don't fancy,
Could do without that.
you know, having to face any of them
Twice.
in those sort of playoff game.
It's a horrible punishment finishing second. An extra 2 games against one of them.
Everybody, I mean, so I mean. pull them off. You were saying about Bodo's record in this tournament. In European football.
Yeah.
It's pretty good at home, isn't it?
Well, the stat just flashed up on my phone. It was something like 14 home European wins in a row. So they don't lose at home in Europe.
And they're beating Celtic and
Celtic.
Roma at home.
But they've beaten Roma twice, I think. I think it was 6-1 in a group game and 2-1 in a knockout game in the Conference League last year. So it's no fluke. They do their job at home. So I think Arteta will absolutely be taking this seriously, as we see from the 11.
Okay. Well, listen, let me go through that 11 again. Now that I've got everyone spooked after reading out the teams that we could get if we don't top this group.
Who do you want of that group?
There's a lot of ex-Arsenal players as well. We could come up against Guendouzi, Sancho, Giroud. There's a few of them that could come back, you know. Yeah, there's a few of them that could come back.
Let me go back to it. So who would I want? So let me just remind everyone again.
I'd want Ajax.
Right, so it's Ajax, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Sporting. I'd want Sporting. AC Milan, Shakhtar, Sevilla, or Juventus. It'd be Sporting for me. We played Sporting before as well. We've beaten them. I remember it was a couple of seasons ago, a few seasons ago, going out there. We beat them, Sporting. So,
yeah, and they've lost a couple key players as well.
Yeah. So Sporting.
If you get AC Milan, we lose to Giroud in another Europa League game. That would be painful.
But Juventus, Sevilla, Shakhtar. That wouldn't be easy either, Shakhtar. They were decent when I saw them playing against
Even Ajax, are they the same Ajax anymore?
Nah, I was going to say I'd probably go Ajax. They've looked unimpressive, if I'm being honest.
Decent coming forward. They're defending. I was watching their game yesterday. Oh, my God.
Did they lose 4-2 to Napoli?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want an Atletico, would you?
Highlights.
You wouldn't want an Atletico Madrid. You wouldn't want a Barcelona. You know, you wouldn't want an AC Milan or Juventus, even though Juventus have been absolutely shocking. So you wouldn't want any of them. So Arteta's looking at it saying, let's get the job done. This is the team, just to remind you guys again, in goal, Matt Turner. At right back, it looks like it's Ben White with Holding and Saliba as the two centre-backs, and Kieran Tierney as the left-back. A midfield of Lokonga, Odegaard and Fabio Vieira, and then Saka on the right, Nelson on the left, and down the middle, Eddie Nketiah. The substitutes are Ramsdale, Hine, Tomiyasu, Cedric, Ibrahim, by the way, that's a new name to me, Ibrahim, Gabriel, Partey, Smith, Xhaka, Marquinhos, Martinelli, and Edwards. That is the team to play Bodø Glimt today. And as I said, the guys are out there. They're going to be speaking to fans after the game. Right, we are going to be back half an hour before the game with our watch-along, where we are going to be watching along to the game. Really, really looking forward to it. It should be a good, really, now that I've seen the team as well, I'm really looking forward to it.
Now we're performing in the league, Rob. This is an easy watch for me. In the previous years, I've probably looked at Europa League as an equal avenue to the Champions League, as top four, if not a better avenue. So there was more pressure in it. Now we're doing so well in the league. I just sit back and watch the Europa League and just expect us to go through it and keep it moving. Yeah,
well, let's hope it is that way. Ashai says, good lineup, get the job done. We cannot finish second with a super chat. And Benny with another super chat says, been forever since I've caught you all. Big up to Robbie, Turkish and the crew. Hope all is well. Come on, you Gunners. Big up to you, Benny. And this guy here, Kennedino, says, come on, Reece. Big game for Reece Nelson. So thank you, guys. Sharoy, James, Turkish. You're going to be back very soon watching this game. Remember, it's a 5:45 kickoff here in the UK. So get ready for that. It's not an 8 o'clock one. Get ready for that. Coming up soon, right here on AFTV. Thank you.